An optimal client-provider relationship is like an old Rock Hudson Doorstay movie. It's the same room and separate beds. On the client side, there are a number of conditions for success. Firstly, the client needs to be honest about what he wants to achieve in an outsourcing relationship. Second, it's very important to pick the right provider who has the same culture, the same vision, the same ways of working as the client. After all, this is a relationship. This is not war. And last but not least, the client needs to be very honest about what he or she wants to achieve through a relationship. On the provider side, provider must be very careful to not exhibit what I call characteristics of logo-friendly. Just because the client has a logo that the provider wants doesn't mean that the provider can overpromise and underperform in the situation. And second, the provider needs to be very, very honest about the capabilities he or she has and brings to the table. Troubled relationships are so much more than service level agreements. Most client-provider relationships gauge the health of the relationship on the service levels, but there really is so much more than that. If the two parties suddenly find that there is a meeting scheduled for every issue, there is a challenge. If meetings become very large and are held in conference rooms without windows, there's typically a challenge. When the two parties start talking over each other and escalating to superiors for every issue, there is a challenge. There are several techniques that support a good relationship between provider and client. It actually starts with the sourcing process. If the client runs a sourcing process that is honest, that is open, that is very clear about objectives, and when the client really wants to understand the culture and the ways of working of the provider, it typically augurs very well for a good relationship. Second, a good relationship plans for failure but hopes for success. These are relationships that are not only contractual, but they are also very soft in structure, and they do not necessarily move very, very smoothly. So the specter of failure must always be in any provider-client relationship. I think I'd also mention that developing a health level agreement as well as a service level agreement for any client-provider relationship is important. There have to be ways to measure the ongoing health of a relationship at any given time. And last but not least, it comes down to communication. When two parties are open and they are willing to talk to each other about the challenges, when they're willing to celebrate successes together, the potential for success is much greater.